Hell yeah. So our biggest tolerance is like...
Oh, I can feel the goods. Woohoo! It's like a toy. Well, not really. This is the only way to do this.
Alright guys, well, this is the solution for all of the problems that I've had with this truck for the last, gosh, at least 4 years. So, if you don't remember, I actually tore this thing apart, gosh, it was probably like 2018, 19, to do a Tremec 5-speed swap. This was an original 3 on the tree truck, so it has, like on the inside of it, you'll see it still has the original column shifter hole. I never changed the column in it. But as you can see, 5-speed swap obviously, but you can see this little guy. And this was the original pedal box that's in it. It still has a Z-bar. So this original setup was an original stick shift truck. This was a 302 3 on the tree truck. I swapped in a Tremec 3550 a long time ago. There is a bunch of videos on my channel about it. And that transmission it's strong, but it shifts not very good. And if you know anything about transmissions, that one specifically does not like RPM. And that's the polar opposite of this drivetrain. So we're gonna be swapping in a brand new Tremec TKX through Silver Sport transmission. They supplied the entire kit with Mcleod. And we have an RXT twin disc clutch, as well as the TKX and a scatter shield, QuickTime scatter shield to go along with it. So all of this stuff should make this a lot better setup. It'll be way more driver friendly and a lot more reliable. So I'm definitely pushing the limits on the clutch that's in this thing right now. It is not rated to go for the amount of power that this thing makes. So we're going to be upgrading to a Mcleod clutch right here. And this is a full studded twin disc setup. So we'll open this up and show all that as it goes in, but should be a really cool setup. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing up in the air and go ahead and pull the old transmission out, show you guys the comparison between the two, and then stab this one in. Before I go on, I wanted to give a massive thank you to the guys over at Silver Sport for working with me on this setup, as well as Mcleod Clutches. They definitely hooked it up, and you can call them for any setup, any project that you got going on. They'll spec you out with a super rad setup with your power level, your motor, and your transmission setup. They'll get it all done for you, and they'll ship it right to your door. So you can see right there, everything's ready to go in, and we're gonna get it put in right now. Also, if you guys wanna grab some of the stuff for yourself, I will have a link down in the description for you guys to check out all the stuff that you'll see in this video, as well as where to get it. And like I said, massive shout out to those guys. You can definitely check it out all below.
Rev me, Craig.
Okay. I don't know what you BMW guys are into, but over in the normal section over here, we're gonna go ahead and get this thing jacked up in the air and put this stinking transmission in.
You don't know about lifting weights,
oh my
baby.
God, bro. Dude raises like 300. I'm like, I know.
And Devin called my bluff and won by one. He won 1 by 1.
Okay, old garbage is out, and now I get to figure out how to put that in. So, as you can see, this thing's had one hell of a life, and it still works. There's nothing really wrong with it. It could probably use a service, maybe a couple synchros, but it still works fine. It just didn't really work with the engine that's in front of it, so that's where this comes in. But this is heavy. So I'm gonna take a break, go get something to eat, and then I'm gonna stab that thing in. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna dial-indicate the bellhousing. So I have the new Mcleod flywheel on, and then the scatter shield just tossed on, and everything's all torqued up. So we have a 0 point. We have the stock dowels in the block, and now we're gonna basically take this setup and go around and actually dial-indicate it, because I think that was one of the problems with my last setup, is I had a stock bell housing with stock dowels, and it was offset enough to where it was offset to the point to where I literally couldn't downshift from third to second. So we're fixing that now. I have Vic on the front. Go ahead and roll. Yeah, go ahead and roll this thing. So we have it set at 0 right now. So go ahead and just roll it 360, and I'm just gonna have to try to find a common 0 point. And it's gonna go now. I set that at our 0 point, which ironically our highest point that we're off is directly at the 12 o'clock position. So we're gonna go from there to 6 o'clock to mark that value. So you're gonna go 180 from where you're at right now, Vic.
Yep.
Yeah, a little more.
Tiny bit.
Yeah, right there. That's 0. So it lands. So it went from 20 across 0 to 20 again.
And then zeroed out, right?
So if you subtract those, then it's gonna be 0, right? Yep.
Dude, spot on, right?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm gonna read the instructions again, but I think it's actually perfect.
Triple check.
Because that would make sense why when we were down on the bottom at 41 or whatever, 40 or 41, and then we went all the way around, it landed at
41, then you
it landed at
20,
0.
20.
I don't know. That's interesting. Either that or I need 20 offset dowels so it just stays at 0 the entire time. I don't know. I'll do some math. That's interesting though. All right, guys. So what we have on the table is an entire install kit from the guys over at Mcleod and Silver Sport Transmission. If you were to want to swap your vehicle from, let's say, the stock 3-speed, stock 4-speed, and into a 5-speed, this is what you would need. So mind you, I want to just reiterate something right off the bat here. This is a little bit more on the performance side of things, and you'll see that as we get into it. Silver Sport will set you up with a bolt-in, ready-to-go transmission setup for any vehicle that you have with any motor, any swap. They've been doing this for a million years. They're very, very good at it. They're very good at what they do. You can call them up on the phone and they'll set you up with a full-blown quote. If you're not quite ready yet, you want to get a quote and see where the ball goes, see what it would cost you to go ahead and 5-speed swap your car, you can give them a call. They'll set you up and get you ready to go with whatever transmission you want, whether that's a T56 6-speed, you want a 5-speed, you want a TKO, you want a TKX, all the above. They can get you set up very, very easily. So I'm gonna go over what we have on the table. I did want to give a massive thank you to the guys over at Silver Sport Transmission as well as Mcleod for working with me on today's video, because it gives me an opportunity to show you guys how easy this whole thing is to put together. So on the table, what we have here is a complete install kit. This is essentially what you would be getting all the way down to the shifter and the ball if you opt for it. So like I said, a little bit more performance oriented, and as you guys saw just in that clip, we have already went ahead and dial indicated this bell housing. So we actually ordered, which I think is sitting right here, we have a set of offset dowels for this bell housing. And what the offset dowels are gonna do is they're gonna allow us to move this bell housing to one side or the other, and that will allow us, it's not gonna really show on camera, but essentially what these are gonna do is these are gonna go into the block and mount the bell housing, and this is gonna offset this. I think we came up with like 7 thousandths one way. And these are a necessary piece. So they offer these, which is something you will 100% wanna be doing if you're going through all this work to swap your car. So we have a quick time scatter shield. This is SFI certified. This is what you would need if you were gonna race. You can see it's all dated right there, ready to go. This is a piece that will mount a TKO, a TKX, or a T56 behind a 5-liter Ford. This is the bell housing that you would want. I will overlay the part number on the screen if you need it. And like I said, if you don't know anything about part numbers and you don't know what you need, give Silver Sport Transmission a call and they will set you up a free quote, everything you need right then and there. So we have our scatter shield. This is the necessary piece because you can see over here we have a cast bell housing is what came out of this. And this is the stock D1, as you can see by here. You can get close to this real quick, Marcelo. You can see the D1 casting. So that's a 71 date coated. It's a truck casting. So this is the original bell housing in my truck. So that's the one thing a bunch of you guys may have not realized. I've had a stock cast bell housing in this thing its entire life, and I've been beating the crap out of it with a stock bell housing, which is, these are strong. As you can see, I haven't broke it, and I drive this thing, I'd like to say, quite hard, but it's definitely due for update, because the last thing I'm gonna do is hit the two-step and drop this thing at 4,000 or 5,000 RPM on the drag strip and have this flywheel explode and cut my feet off. I've seen it happen. It's really dangerous. It's really gnarly. If you're pushing over 500, 600, 700 horsepower and you drive your stuff very, very hard, I would highly recommend going to the scatter shield if you're gonna do all this work. So, depends on how you drive, but coming back over to here, so that goes along. It comes with everything you would need to bolt this thing in. We have all of our hardware in the back, so we're not just throwing a bunch of bolts all over the table, but there will not be a single bolt that you will have to buy. You'll be able to get everything set up in a kit for you from Silver Sport, engineered for your vehicle application. You have your backing plate, you have your scatter shield, that will go together. All of the hardware and all the instructions necessary to put that together will come with it. You can see we have some bags of hardware here just to kind of show you that everything is labeled and it tells you exactly what it's for. Transmission to bell housing, like incredibly simple. So it makes it as easy as they can, all the way down to the pilot bearing. And this is a really, really simple kit. It comes with our tail shaft. This will go in the transmission, and this will mate to our current drive shaft as we modify it. This is a 1350 U-joint, I believe, and it matches the spline count on the back of the transmission. I opted to go with a Z-bar. So I have the stock Z-bar set up, the stock pedal set up in this truck, and I wanted to retain that with a scatter shield. That was one of the reasons a long time ago I didn't want to go to a different bell housing or a different hydraulic clutch, because I like the original mechanical setup. And so we opted to go ahead, and you can see the ball pivot, and that will mount the fork, and the fork will clip right onto that. You can see on the stock fork right here that we have, this will literally clip right into it. I'll take this guy and bolt it right onto the inside of this bell housing. You can see this has a provision for the ball right there if you were going to run the ball, and then there's the provisions for the clip right there as well, so you can just bolt it in right down there. So makes it really, really easy, one simple piece, so we don't have to go modifying a bunch of stuff. And the last thing you would want to do is do all this cool stuff, put an amazing transmission with an amazing twin disc clutch and a stock bell housing. So doing that necessary upgrade while we're here. So we have a new shifter, a new ball, that'll look really nice, a new base plate. That's one of the things that I haven't had for a long time in my truck, because it's been kind of just flopping in the wind. Every time I do over like 100 miles an hour, it comes up from the floor. So it'd be nice to have a properly bolted down one, which would be nice. And then moving into the bread and butter of this thing, this is our Mcleod RXT twin disc clutch. This is the thing that is the most important part of this entire setup, because this is what's actually putting the power to the ground in between the transmission and the engine. So there are a lot of components here. So I have it separated a little bit, but our RXT line, this is the exact same setup that we just put in the Crown Vic, being it's a drift car. We know it's gonna get used very, very hard, and this is one gnarly unit. So you can see the size difference here from the diaphragm on this clutch to the twin disc. So you can see these two right here, if you look actually down here. So you can see we have, this is the one off of our 164 tooth stock application flywheel. And then this is, we're moving down from a 164 to a 157. So a little bit smaller diameter. However, this is a aluminum flywheel, very lightweight. I could pick this thing up, it's not heavy at all. Marcelo was very surprised when he picked it up, and he was like, wow, I didn't drop it on myself and kill myself. So it's a lot lighter. And you can see there are a lot of components to this thing. So this is a true twin disc. So you can see there's one plate here, and we have that one, and then we have a friction disc in between the two. So that comes off, and then from there we have another disc on the bottom. And then there is a separate piece that mounts to our flywheel. So this is one totally different unit, as you can see. There's a lot of components and pieces where literally you can build this whole thing. As you can see right here, it all assembles just like so. And then you have your one big unit in one big piece. So this is way gnarlier because it's twice the friction grabbing force as a regular single disc clutch. That's actually the biggest problem that I had with this guy right here. It's a big clutch, as you can see, and this thing's gnarly, and it worked amazing. We spec'd this thing out when this thing made like 300 crank horsepower. It's rated for 400, 450 I think realistically, and this is just a super street series. So this is like your regular daily driver, maybe some fun weekend car. Clutch is amazing. Once we built this engine, we didn't have enough time to swap the clutch out. So I'm making 100 horsepower on top of what this thing was rated for, and it still worked, and it still drives, and it still did burnouts, and I still clutch kicked it in second gear while I was rolling, and it would hook up and it would go. So massive, massive respect to Mcleod for making a badass product that I literally put in my truck, and I have been driving with 100 more horsepower than this rating for, and it works perfectly. But we are doing those steps right now to make a necessary upgrade with this RXT twin disc. Now this is a steel flywheel, not an aluminum, and so everything's gonna be a little bit heavier here. So the rotating mass, the nice thing about the aluminum flywheels is you can whack on it a bunch, and it's very, very lightweight. Sounds like a Trans Am car, it revs, it's a lot more rev happy.
I'm really curious to see how it changes with this setup on it. But either way, I do want to point this out on the box. You can get real close to these. So these are our necessary part numbers. This is basically everything you would get in the kit, because the flywheel and our clutch is all one big piece. It's all one big kit. So this is a really cool setup. I think this will work amazing. So I'm gonna go ahead and start putting these pieces on. And once again, I wanted to give a massive thank you to the guys over at Silver Sport Transmission and Mcleod Clutches for working with us on this setup. I've run Mcleod Clutches in every single car I own. They all work amazing, and I would never run anything else because this stuff actually puts the power down. It's easy to use, and it's strong, and it lasts. So if there's anyone that's gonna destroy a clutch, it's gonna be me. You guys see how I drive these things. And so I'm super excited to run the RXT line. Now let's get it in the truck.
All right, guys, so realistically, this is the most important upgrade that we are doing on this truck. I know I said it was the flywheel and the clutch and all the other things, but all of it works together for this specific reason. And this is what's gonna be the biggest change in this truck's history. So if you guys don't recall, I've had issues in the past with this transmission, not because it's a bad transmission. I've ran this thing for the better part of 4 or 5 years now, and it's super strong. It will not break. I have not broke it. It's never ground in any gear, but just the way that the thing shifts, it's outdated. It got replaced in 2004. It came out in, I think, 99. It was in like the SN95 Cobra, and I believe a couple other cars. But overall, it doesn't like high RPM shifting, which is exactly all you guys see me doing this thing. And the best way to accommodate that is to replace it with a newer version. So this is Tremec's all new TKX manual transmission. This thing can handle engine speeds of up to 8,000 RPM, shifts at 7,500 plus RPM, and up to 600 plus foot-pounds of torque. This thing is a monster. Now, for something you could daily drive and hop in and drive across the country in, that's not a race transmission. This is like the best thing that you can get. And you'll notice a couple things about it. It's basically the same size as a T5. So a T5 is a little bit shorter, a little bit smaller. I wish I had the one on the Mustang to compare it with. But you can see the TKO and the 3550 casing is a little bit longer, just by a little bit. So we will have to modify our drive shaft. You can see right there, our shifter location, just subtly a little bit different there, a little bit further back. So you're probably used to a lot of Fords having the classic 10 spline. Now this one has a 26. It's a lot bigger, it's a lot stronger, and overall it'll handle a lot more power than the generic 10 spline will. And that's one of the bigger upgrades we're looking for as well. Being that we need to be able to drag race this thing, if I'm gonna run it on the two-step, the last thing I wanna do is be like my good friend Tom, who has a 3550, and break the input shaft off in the transmission over and over and over again. I love you, buddy, but come on, we gotta make an upgrade over there too. So we're both in the same boat. So yeah, this unit is gonna be way better. It also has a 31 spline output shaft in the back, which is bigger than the one in the TKO. And just overall, everything is bigger. It's more optimized. It's able to handle a lot more power. The casing is much beefier in general. You can see how much thicker this thing is. And I think overall, it's just gonna be a much better upgrade for the truck. So, all right, so we got Marcelo grabbing the dowels out of this thing, and we're swapping them out. So these are the adjustable dowel pins. So you can see this is what was in it. And it's not going to show up on camera because these are like 7th thou offset dowels. So, you know, from the naked eye, you really won't be able to see the offset. But they just ever so slightly are offset right at that line over one way. So these are adjustable, which is super rad. So I can actually put a wrench on this thing, and I can rotate it, and then I can lock it down, which will expand it in the block and lock it in the position that I want. So as I'm going around dial indicating this bell housing, writing down all the measurements, if I'm off one way or the other, I can go ahead and take a wrench and just move it a little bit, clock it, lock it down, check it again until we're at, you know, between 0 and I believe 5,000. This is what we're shooting for on this bell housing. So I'm hoping with the size that I measured and everything, it will work. But as long as I can get it within 5 thou, we should be good. Is that one looking like it's coming out, or is that one stuck?
Yeah, it's not coming out.
Oh, damn it. All right, I'm gonna set the bell housing on. I'm gonna dial indicate this thing, hopefully for the last time. We have 14 thou offset dowels facing straight up. The side to side is perfect, so we should have pretty damn close to a 0 tolerance on this thing. We'll see how I did. Oh my God. Oh, no, it's stuck. All right, we're gonna run this. Okay, go ahead and roll it over. So we're set at 0 right now at the bottom. Keep going. Stop. Pretty much at like 1.5, 2 thou. Keep going. And stop. One more. Yep, 2 thou again. It's really good. Keep going. I swear this thing falls again. Stop. Nice. We're pretty much at like 5 thou. Keep going. As long as it goes back to 0 right here, we're good. And stop, right back to 0. Hell yeah. So our biggest tolerance is like 5, which is a 2.5 thou split. That's perfect. That thing's ready to rock. Hell yeah. So this thing is pretty much ready to go. So I
So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put the clutch and the flywheel back in this thing, and it should go together pretty good. Marcelo's over there having a nap. How's it going, buddy? Yay.
Okay.
Alright, let's put the clutch back in. Let's finish this damn thing. You walked all the way to the other side of the shop to shit yourself, and then ironically blew all the way right into my face.
Pretty good.
Alright, so we're ready to go ahead and put this bell housing in. As you can see, there's a metal ring in here. So this ring is an adapter ring for the transmission. And what this does is this allows a proper tolerance between the bell housing and a multitude of different transmissions. So I'm pretty sure this would work with like a top loader. The one that's in here works with the TKX beautifully, and then I'm pretty sure if you take this out, it would bolt right up to like a T56 or any of the other ones. So yeah, bunch of variety here. This bell housing works with a billion different transmissions, which is super rad. So yeah, everything else is good. Dial indication is good. We're 2.5 thousandths off center, which is golden. We're supposed to be sub 5. So we're ready to go and bolt this thing in. So I gotta get this thing bolted in.
We're gonna wrap this thing up. What I have in this box is gonna tie everything together between the twin disc clutch, scatter shield, the TKX. This is gonna help us put the power to the ground. Now this is a custom made carbon fiber drive shaft from QA1. If you thought that all they made was suspension, you'd be dead wrong, and I'm gonna show you guys right now how badass this piece is. So I reached out to the guys over at QA1 and sent them the specs on our length for the drive shaft, the U-joint size, as well as the slip yoke size. And they custom built a drive shaft for this. You can go on their website, send them what you want, pretty much get the order form and go through the checklist on what you want, and they'll make you a drive shaft for pretty much any application, which is super awesome. There's a bunch of benefits about this, but I'll wait to pull it out because this thing looks absolutely incredible. I have not seen it yet. I've just seen photos. Oh boy. Oh, this is so good. Oh, I can feel the goods. Woohoo! Yes, dude. Look at this thing. Not only that, look at that. Look at how much this thing weighs. It is like, it's like a toy. Well, not really. A really expensive toy. So this fully wound carbon fiber, SFI serted, billet ends. This is a badass piece. And this, the benefit about this is this actually allows for the drive shaft to flex and twist a little bit to take out the shock in between each gear change. So if you're going first to second, second to third, and you're just blowing the tires off, this thing will actually dampen that load just a hair on the initial hit to keep your tires from just blowing off completely. So it'll actually dampen that shock, allow you to put more power to the ground. These things will handle up to 2,000 horsepower, which is crazy to me. So I'm super hyped. This is a super badass piece. 3550 U-joints all the way throughout. Sonic's front slip yoke. Everything's super baller and badass, and I cannot wait to try to break this because I know I won't. So my drive shaft is no longer the weakest link anymore, thanks to the guys over at QA1. So let's get this thing in the truck, see what it looks like. Man, this is a nice piece.
This is the only way to do this. This is the proper way.
The only way?
The only way. Dialed.
Yeah, that seems inspect to me.
Inspect.
Any thoughts on that?
Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and pop this thing in. So I'm gonna slide it up. I'm gonna put a little bit of some oil on the front of this guy so it doesn't want to go in dry, because you never, ever, you can imagine what I'm about to say, want to put your shaft in.
You weren't supposed to say that, Craig. You're gonna get demonetized.
I didn't, we bleeped it out, it's okay.
Andrew, don't bleep it
At
out.
least I think you did. You're gonna want to rub your shaft nice and good. And we're gonna go ahead and stick this thing.
Careful now, it's carbon fiber, eh?
And then you're gonna want to lift it up. And drop it right. Oh, that's nice.
You know, if you were smart, you should have taken the
I'm not smart.
these out of
I'm
the
not
bag.
smart. I'm not
Don't worry, I got you. Marcelo, here.
Thanks, man.
We're on a time crunch here.
It's okay. I'll take my time. There we go.
Aha.
What the frick?
These things only go in one way.
What the sick one?
These U-bolts, dude, these things are huge.
They are pretty big.
So the biggest benefit of this setup, and I actually got to pull the drive shaft out to do it, is we are now running a complete 3550 setup. Before, I had this thing built when I made like a whopping 186.7 horsepower at the crankshaft, so it was slow. So I had a 1310 up front, I had a 1310 in the back. Then I cut this thing up, built a 9-inch in it, so this is a fully built 9 3/8 carrier, and I had a 1310, a 1330, and then a 1350 combo. So it was a 1330, 1350 combo in the back. And the whole drive shaft was reworked, I think, 3 times. It was built by full torque drive shafts, then Oceanside driveline cut it up twice. So, because I kept changing things. It was always a good drive shaft, I just kept upgrading. So now, this time we just cut out the middleman, went straight to a full-blown 1350 QA1, 1350 billet ends in the front, 1350 in the back, and then a 1350 yoke I swapped out onto the 9 3/8 carrier in this thing. So this is gonna be a pretty rowdy unit, and I don't think, and I better not ever break it. I need that U-bolt too. So, this should be Craig-proof. But is anything really ever quake-proof? Let's be honest here. Anything ever?
I'm not gonna answer that question.
Good, don't.
No wood around to knock on.
No, yeah, exactly. Oh my god, I did.
That's why you use snap-on tools only, brother.
These are gear wrenches, you idiot.
I can't read. Hey, Craig. Oh, look at me. Oh, I can't do any much further. Ladies and gentlemen, he's got a...
I'm looking at you.
I've got my eyes on you.
Alright, you guys, got this thing wrapped up last night. Got some new parts in the engine bay. You guys will see that in a future video. Driveline is pretty much wrapped up. Got our new carbon fiber QA1 drive shaft in there, as well as the transmission looking mighty fly. The scatter shield and everything else looks freaking rad. So cannot wait to drive this thing. We got our tunnel, which you'll also see how we modified everything in here in the future videos. So it's kind of a two-parter. There's some bits and pieces that are definitely missing from this video. There's a lot to cover, so we kind of want to break it up in subsections. So the basis of the transmission and that part is now done. Massive thank you to you guys over at Silversport and Mcleod, as well as QA1 again for sending all this stuff out. And I will see you guys on part 2 where we get this thing hopefully wrapped up, fired up, and back on the ground. So, like the video if you did enjoy, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Grab your merchandise at 909 Speed Company if you did go on to enjoy the video. And I will see you guys in the next one. Later, guys.